Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today we are continuing with this ES35 kit from Solo Guitars, and we are continuing with our tool comparisons. So we're working our way through a series here where we compare various tools for fretwork. All right, there are a bunch of them for straightening out the neck, for doing your fret leveling, for doing your fret crowning, your fret dressing. There are a bunch of tools that allow you to do these. So which ones do you want to use? Well, we're comparing a bunch of different ones, and in today's video, we are doing the crowning work. One of the most important parts, we're going to test out a few different crowning files, a few different crowning systems, and let you guys choose which one you think works best. Keep in mind, if you want one of these kits, check out the Solo Music Gear link in the description. It is an affiliate link, helps me out if you pick one up through there. After we're done all of the fretwork on this one, we're going to get her wired up and see how it sounds. Then, of course, we're going to do a finish on it, which is going to be a blast, and finish it up. Really looking forward to that build, this build rather, and it's going to be coming along pretty quick here. But for now, we need to finish up these frets, make sure that this thing is going to play beautifully. We already did our neck leveling work, we did our fret leveling. It's time to get crowning. Let's see what we're working with. We have 4 different options that we're going to run through here. We're going to test them all. We're going to talk about the pros and cons. You're going to see what we're dealing with. So in no particular order, let's tell you what these are. You have seen me use this one the most. This is a Hosco fret crowning file. It's got rounded diamond file sections, 3 different ones, 3 different sizes. The number 2 is the standard guitar one. There's also a number 1, which is more like a ukulele, mandolin type thing, like really small frets. And the number 3, which is the big guy, probably for bass frets. Those are your 3 options. This is a nice round curve that this one puts in. We'll talk more about it as we use it. This guy is available through the Solo Music Gear website, so if you do want it, check it out there from Solo Guitars. Check out the link in the description like we talked about, and you can get it through there. Next up, 3-corner file. This one in particular is from Crimson Guitars. Beautiful file. They sent this to me as part of the Great Guitar Build-Off. It has 3 sides. It's got 3 corners, of course, hence the name. It's a triangle. They're all ground down perfectly smooth. So yeah, beautiful tool, really nice handle. This is the Crimson Guitars version, so check out crimsonguitars.com if you want one of those. I had a discount there, Angove 10, a discount code. I don't know if it still works. It's not an affiliate code, I don't think. It's a discount code. So if you are going to buy one through there, give that a shot. That might get you 10% off. Next up, I wish I had a discount code for you from these guys because they're bloody expensive. StuMac Z-file. The Z-file is a very well-known crowning file. This one in particular is the original. They also have a uniform one, like a one that's filed evenly, and a safe version that has only one side with abrasive on it. We can talk about those real quick here, but the gist of it is this one is kind of shaped like a check mark, and you flip it over. I like it a lot better than the dead even one. It works faster, it works better in my opinion. And the safety one that only has abrasive on one side is nice, but it's slower, and I don't think it's necessary. These are pretty safe. And then finally, for the purpose of today's video, my do-it-yourself one. You can check out my old video if you want on how to make your own tool for cheap. This guy just has sandpaper on each side using some simple spray adhesive or super glue maybe, and masking tape. Very simple. I put a piece of masking tape on here, a little bit of super glue, and then stuck the paper on. It's a triangle. The bottom is flat. Let me focus in a little closer here. So the bottom is a 1/4 inch, just flat walnut. And yeah, I'll show you how this one works as well. Now, before someone bothers to say it, yes, there are other options. I know, okay? These are the ones that we're reviewing for the purpose of today, but if you want that more angular file look like you're gonna get from the Z-file, there's also the little bone tool. That's really cool. It just slides along your fretboard. Really neat trick. There's the Baroque file, which strongly resembles the Hosco. It's pretty much the same thing, I think, but maybe not. There are some of the older style ones that have the curved handle on them, and you can do it with other tools as well. I believe I did it. I forget what exactly I used, but I did it with something from like Home Depot in my Home Depot Guitar Kit Challenge video. So there are other options. These are some of the best ones in my opinion. I use other options as well sometimes, But yeah, these are good choices. So let's take a look at how these work and let's compare. So remember, when you're doing this, we've leveled these, which means there's a big flat spot at the top of them. Not a big flat spot because they weren't too all over the place in terms of height, but there is a flat spot along the top of all of these, and we want to crown that to a nice peak, whether it's rounded or angular. That's actually kind of a matter of preference, but we want to crown that to a nice peak so that the string has somewhere to intonate on each and every one of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little blue mark along the top, and this isn't as much a tutorial as some of my other videos. It's supposed to be a tool comparison, but let me give you the basic tip here, which is mask off your fretboard if you're not confident in this step. I've seen a lot of people draw on their fretboards by accident with their Sharpie and then damage their fretboards doing the next part of the work. If you don't do this all the time, mask your fretboard. If you do this all the time, you still may very well want to consider masking your fretboard. I know a lot of people do, a lot of builders do. If I were using a big bench polisher after to polish these up, I would mask my fretboard in its entirety right now. There's no reason not to. So what we want to be left with here, we've got a kind of a wide Sharpie line on top of each of these, which I'll show you. And we want to end up with a perfectly straight, very thin Sharpie line. That's the end result that we are going for. A very thin Sharpie line is going to indicate two important things for us. First, it's going to indicate that we have this brought up to a uniform point in the middle. And second, the fact that we still have a Sharpie line there is going to indicate that we haven't taken the top off. We don't really want to take the top off unless we can ensure that we're doing it uniformly, because we've already leveled this, so we don't want to lower these now. So let's get to work. We're going to start off with Crimson's triangle file. And instead of saying do as I say, not as I do, for once here, I'm going to practice what I preach. And I'm going to tape this fret off. It's going to help you focus on which one I'm working on. It's going to protect the fretboard, partially because I don't generally use a triangle file when I do this task. So what we're going to do, we're going to run one of those safe edges, one of those ground edges along the fretboard, and we're going to file. And you can do this two ways. You can either file straight to create a more angular fret, or you can twist as you go to round it over. Just make sure you're not doing that. You don't want to create a like banana shape. You want to keep it straight. And that is one of the risks with this type of system, and one of the things that makes this one a little bit difficult. Don't be afraid to flip the fretboard over and come at the other side the same way if you've got a direction that you're more comfortable with. I don't. I'm okay with doing it this way. You can also consider switching hands if you're going to find that easier, but most people don't. Yeah, this is our process. It's gradual. It's not necessarily the fastest method, at least not for me, but it certainly works. I recommend that you don't start too far out to the end of the file, because it's easier to control in close here. You can see us gradually working our way down to a nice tight line here. So this does afford a lot of control if you're good at it. You can really regulate where on the fret you're working. And you can bring that down to a pretty nice tight line. Took a little while. Looks pretty straight. There's a little section in the middle that I want to... There we go. So you can't really make this kind of correction with the other systems, but this one you can. And my do-it-yourself version you can. There you go. Okay. Let's move on to the next option. All right, for this one we're going to use my do-it-yourself tool here. Because it's the most similar. So this, again, you have two options. You can either come up and just go straight at it, or you can round it over as you go, which is what we're going to do here. There you go. And much like the last one, you can see you end up with a nice thin line at the end. That's what we were going for. Let's move on to the next one. This time we're going to use the Hosco file. Remember, using number 2 for a normal guitar fret. And this guy, we want to respect the radius of the fretboard and just go right over top. Very quick, very easy. And that's it. Doesn't take long. Just be careful with this guy because it's rounded. There is a tendency to occasionally take the Sharpie off the top, so you have to be very careful about keeping that even when you do it, making sure you're using a similar number of strokes on each of them. So the Z-file is a little different on each side. It's at an angle, so it'll take more off of one side and then more off the other when you flip it. So I can do one side here, get it pretty close, and then come in on the other side and finish it up. There we go. All right, guys, so those are the 4 options that we're going to demo today. I'm going to do the rest of this fretboard off camera. You guys have seen me do a bunch of these before. You've seen me level interest frets many times. So I'm going to finish that off camera, and then in the next one, we're going to come in and do all the fret dressing, all the corners, and we will do a comparison for that as well. But before we go, let's talk about the pros and cons of each of these 4 options. I'm going to try and remember which order I did them in. So let's start with the 3-corner file. Very versatile tool. It's going to last. You can clean it off, and you're never going to have to like change the paper like you do on the one with the sandpaper on it. It is a little slower. It is a little difficult sometimes because you have to be careful not to get that natural rotation. You have to be very, very cautious about how you do this. So it's slower, and you need some caution, some skill to use it. But once you get the hang of it, it works really well. Lots of control, lasts forever, very durable tool. Versatile, you can use it for other stuff if you want to. And it's just generally a high quality item. That's the 3-corner file from Crimson. The do-it-yourself model. If you didn't know this, if you haven't seen the video that I did this, that I made this in, Dan from Guns and Guitars, he made a similar version, smaller, very interesting item that he made, and that's what I used as inspiration to create this version. So this one is longer. It suits the way that I do things a little bit better, but Dan originally came up with the idea, and it was very cool what he did. Benefits to this one: 1, it's cheap. You can make it yourself probably. It's actually, you don't have to make it quite like this. You could take a piece of square hardwood stock and just shave a corner off, and as long as it was square, so 90 degrees, you're good. You've got basically the same thing. So there are lots of options for making these very cheap. Sandpaper and masking tape. That's about all you need, in some form of adhesive. You can change the abrasive on here. So depending on how fast you want to work, how much you want to do, you can put on a coarser grit or lighter grit, or one of each. So you can go in with something a little more coarse, like a 180 grit, and then finish off with a 400 or 600, and you've got less polishing work to do later. So a lot of pros to this. You do have to change the paper. It's not the easiest thing to control, but I find it a little easier than the triangle file just because I'm on top of it instead of behind it when I'm pushing. So being on top of it makes it a little easier to control. Yeah, and you can come up with your own design to some degree. I'm a little faster with this than the triangle file. I'm sure that's not the case for everyone though. Lots of people are probably pretty good with that one too. Let's move on to the next option. The Hosco file from Solo Music Gear. Lots of pros to this one. 1, well, it's nice, period. 2, it's got the 3 different options, so you can do a few different types of instruments if you want to. It is fast. So this one is faster because you're just going over top. It creates that nice rounded shape because these are round. Now that is one of the key differences between this one and the Z-file, is it does create that rounded shape. The Z-file creates the angular shape, so leave it up to you which one you like better. I use this on a lot of my builds because it creates that rounded shape, but there is that risk of taking some off the top. So you do have to be careful when you're doing this. You have to be cautious. You actually have to pay attention to how much you're doing, because if you lose the Sharpie off the top, you need to know for the next one how much you've done, all right? So there are some risks there. There is a factor of skill required to use this one, but it gets the job done. It's easier than the other 2 methods, and it is faster. That's the Hosco crowning file, available at Solo Music Gear in the link below. And then finally, the Z-file from StuMac. Off the hop, this one is pricey. So is the Hosco one. They're both pretty expensive. This guy is probably the fastest, The Hosco one is close, but this one is lightning quick. Couple strokes, flip it over, one or two. You do most of it one way and then flip it and do the other couple, and it is done. It is easy and safe. No real risk of taking any off the top with this guy, and you can leave a real thin line. So it's definitely a good option. Again, pretty expensive, fast, and gives you that more angular cret frown. So up to you whether you like that or not. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Let me know in the description below which one of these you use or think you might want to use. And of course, let me know if you have any questions. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Helps me out and I appreciate it. And remember to subscribe so you can see the next tool demo, the next comparison, and the rest of this build. Thanks again, guys. Hope you liked it. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.